All
And we're
right.
live.
Great.
Hey there, Andrea, who look like glamour pussy this evening. Oh my.
Hi, Janice. Hi,
Hi.
everyone. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday indeed. Happy Monday indeed. Happy Monday. So what's up? How are you?
I am good. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. Busy weekend. Equally busy Monday, but I
Yeah,
am good. How are you?
I'm good. Trying to I tried to rest this weekend and for some reason I just couldn't relax. I was like, what's on my mind? I just couldn't figure it out. So I have a little bit of that carried over along with a busy Monday, but I'm good otherwise. I'm pretty good.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah. So, how was last week?
Um, Last week was also a good week, a pretty busy week. um, New schedule for me,
Yeah.
and it's a new season, which we knew would have been happening in 2023, but not knowing ahead what was ahead. So it's
Yeah.
like
And,
it's
and it just started like,
just like that. And so it's also adjusting. There's a little bit of the adjustment, there's a little bit of the apprehension that comes naturally with the unknown. But then there's also the excitement,
yeah,
that
yeah,
comes with it.
yeah,
So yeah, I'm just going through the process. If I check myself, how am I? There's no tightness, there's no worry right now. So I'm good.
that's great. That's
Yeah.
wonderful. That is wonderful.
And your
Um,
week?
my week last week, as you said, this year has just started off with this bang and this busy, and I'm feeling like, wow, where are the hours going? You
Mm-hmm.
know? Um, but I'm learning to pace myself, and I'm also learning to not say yes to everything. Any little project that comes along that sounds exciting or sounds like it could be exciting. I think in the month of January, I said quite a few no's, and I'm so proud of myself.
Wow. It's not easy to
Yes,
say no.
yes. Can you imagine? I
Yeah.
mean, when you think about it, people are like, well, don't you need the money? Yeah, but sometimes, boy, some of those things not worth it. And they look shiny and pretty at the start, and then they end up costing you because they suck your time and energy.
I mean, that's an interesting segue to what we'll be talking about today
Oh,
and
absolutely.
these necessary distinctions.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, but I just want to talk about what I'm grateful for. I'm grateful, very simply, just grateful to be alive and to have the opportunity to do this work. I'm grateful for that. Tell us in the comments what you're grateful for. Um, let's talk about being grateful. Gratefulness is a choice. We do it because you're choosing to be grateful. There are so many things that are more right than are wrong with you, no matter how bad you think you're a situation you're in. There are way more things that are right than those that are wrong. So, what are you grateful for? You're muted.
Yeah. I'm grateful for a new year, and
Mm,
the same thing that I spoke about, how this year is peculiar, stroke excitement, stroke challenging, all at the same time, but
yeah,
just having a sense of purpose, having a sense of God is in control. And it's having been around for 40 something years, you kind of know when the feeling is different. And I'm
yeah,
grateful for that.
Yeah.
even though it's not what makes me comfortable, but there is this layer of peace that is there. There is this layer of calm that is there, and those things are priceless for me. you
Yeah.
know that sense of purpose and that peace that passed all understanding. So that's what
Yeah.
I'm grateful for.
Excellent. So, what are we talking about today?
I don't know.
You don't know?
We are talking about good versus right.
Yeah.
And one would think, aren't they both good? But
Yeah.
there's a distinction, an
There is
important
a
distinction.
distinction. There is a distinction. So, what's the distinction now?
Well, I mean, we can have different ways of looking at it, but I think, in thinking about it, one of the clear distinctions for me is good is a matter of one's perception and one's conscience. Um, where your heart is, where your knowledge is, where your interests are, where your leaning is. And based on your local circumstances, you basically
Mhm.
decide that something is good. You know, it's beneficial, it's reasonable in the matter. So it's very personal, I think, from that standpoint. Versus right. Right suggests something that is a standard that is external to you. So there is something that defines, whether something is useful, something is appropriate, something is moral, something is ethical. And so it has a standard that is determined by something that is outside of you, right? So it's not our judgment of what is our personal judgment of it, but it's more what is the standard, what is the law, what is the way that has been set in this particular area. I mean, that's what I think about when I think about the two. What do you think about?
Well, I think about it from several perspectives. For me, what's good is, I think, as you alluded to, it's based on a judgment. It's based on what I think or what somebody else thinks or what somebody else says is good. Right,
Including your culture, yeah.
yeah, including your culture. Right, or most importantly, it's also a feeling.
Yes.
It's also a feeling, right? And so whatever feels good must be good, right? Or whatever culture says is good must be good. Um, so um, what is right is based, as you say, on a set of standards. It's based on some established standard of what is right. And I think what is right even has a closer leaning to truth than good. You know, one of the things when this topic came up for me is that is how this culture places on the fact that what feels good, they cross it over and say, well, what feels good is right.
Right.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Um, and so here we also have the crossing of um, what's good is it's not what we know as good as per standard, whichever standard that is, by the way, is no longer good, and vice versa. What we know as bad is, and so it becomes almost interchangeable. But we know that truth is not interchangeable, right? So, for example, there are several things that, listen, it feels good to eat a tub of ice cream. Is it right?
Yay!
Is it right?
2 bars of chocolate.
Yeah, is it right? Is it right if for someone who has issues, is it right? You have to think about that. But culture is now saying that how you feel, you have to what's the word? um
That's your determinant. You use that as your gauge.
yeah, how it
Hatred,
feels.
yeah,
Does it feel good? Does it feel right? And you're thinking to yourself, um is this the standard?
right.
Because very often that's where the standard gets shifted, but real standards never shift,
Yeah, yeah.
you know. um hey guys, thanks for coming on. We're talking about what's good versus right this evening, and we're talking about where they may or may not cross paths, or are they different and distinct, or are they one and the same? you know
So,
Jump into the comments and tell us what your thoughts are about good versus right.
so let me use a way that I use it to make it a little bit clearer in my mind. So we are three parts. We're made of three parts. We have
Mm-hmm.
our spirit, we have our soul, and we have our body.
Right.
No, the what's also associated with the body is the sensation, right? And so the feelings and what gives us comfort, what gives us pleasure,
Mm-hmm.
our senses kind of give us the cue there. And then based on that, we tend to lean and make our decisions. Now that is at the level of the body, and
Mm-hmm.
also the level of the soul, because now the heart is involved, your emotions are involved. And if I feel this strongly about something, acting on it is supposed to be a good thing and a right thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the truth is, there is a clear distinction between what is good and what is right. It feels good, undoubtedly, right? Because it satisfies an itch, it satisfies a need, it addresses a very emotional situation, and it gives you that release in the moment. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the good feeling. But is it right? And the part of us that normally connects to and distinguishes what is right is our spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why is because our spirit goes beyond just the here and now. It's looking out for the interests of the whole being. It's seeing things from a higher perspective. It's looking out for your good, your future, everything about you. It's seeing long term. It's talking about conscience. It's talking about balancing all the factors that play a part. Whereas your soul just wants to deal with what is here and now. Your body just wants to be satisfied because there's a calling, there's a craving, there's a desire that is there. And so when we're talking about the distinction, even within ourselves, the part of us that is able to determine what is right and wrong is actually our spirit. And that's also the part that has a connection with God. So that's where the truth comes in. Unless we are connected to God, we don't really know what the spirit, what truth is, because truth is not just like how good and right is interchange. That truth is also interchange. Go
Mm-hmm.
around and say, "That's my truth." No,
Yeah.
that's not your truth. That's your state. Your
Yeah.
truth is
Yeah.
what God says, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Sophia said the distinction is also between whether we say we feel good versus
versus
doing
doing
good.
good. Even
And Tripp
exactly.
says right or wrong is based on society, your
And
upbringing, whether
upbringing.
it's good or bad, is based on religion. Yeah. Well, yeah,
Or the
true.
other way around. I mean, share with them what the kids said. So, a friend of ours who watches asked some kids that were around her, "What's the difference between good and right?" So the kids said, "Good is when you obey and do what you're told to do. Basically, your behavior is upstanding." And then right is when you teach a marky book, right or wrong. And I
But it's very clear. So
so
right
clear.
or wrong is black and white.
Yes, yes,
It's
it
black and
is.
white. It's either right or it's wrong. but so there's no feeling in there, there's no subjectivity, there's
It's
nothing
a
there.
choice that determines what is right or wrong. It's yeah, it's black and white. And that came from the mouths of children, and they were able to distinguish the two.
Yeah, yeah, which is good,
It
says a
is.
lot for the next generation.
Yep, yep, yep.
Yeah. And so it's but what causes the lines to be blurred though? But I think you alluded to it before, when you're talking about the body, the soul, you know, in that the body wants what it wants.
Yeah, it does.
Today I had this insane craving for KFC, and I was convinced that I was going to go buy it. Clearly, I
You
didn't.
didn't?
No, I didn't. I didn't give into it. But I'm telling you, the urge was so. And I'm
So
like, what
strong.
is? It was so strong.
It's so strong.
And when you think about it, imagine that I was going to think of getting up, getting ready, drive, go on the road, go stand up in a line to wait on this. That was how strong the urge was.
Hmm.
You know. Um.
So you're
My
saying
body
what
didn't.
causes it a lot? So, I love to go back to the source.
Right.
And if we go back to the beginning of things and we remember what happened with humanity from Adam and Eve Genesis story, when when
Paris wants something else. She's ready for something
last
else.
week
Clearly,
and then this week, she's not a part of the life though. But anyway,
clearly, she
um,
thinks she is.
yep. So when Adam and Eve sinned, the part of mankind, when God says, if you eat of this fruit, you shall surely die, we thought it was a physical death. God was
Hmm.
talking about a spiritual death. And so when Adam and Eve sinned, there was a spiritual death. And remember what I said the role of the spirit is. That's
Hmm.
the one that points out what is right. That's the one that thinks at a higher level
Hmm.
and looks out for
Hmm.
the interests of your total being. And so when that died and humanity continued, and remember, each creation makes after its own kind. So we are born in sin, we are shaped
Wow.
in iniquity. And so we are born, every time we give birth to a child, every time a child is born, they're born in that state that Adam found himself in. And so we naturally are born with the spirit itself either being, not activated. It's very much a part of you, but it's dead. It's sleeping. It's not alive yet. And then now when you are saved, then that's when it is renewed, right?
Right.
Um, so because of that, culture has taken the place,
Hmm.
right?
That's the
Upbringing
replacement.
has taken the place. Man's best judgment of things has taken the place. And so because of that, good has become what is right, right? So
Yeah.
that's where it all started. But I think as we become more aware, as we now begin to analyze what's happening around us, and we're saying, no, 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 there is more than just satisfying one's body. There is more to life than just thoughts and emotions and your heart. There's purpose. There is a everything coming together. There is a God who is clearly bigger and has a plan. So there is a bigger meaning. And as we begin to think about those things, Jan, then questions now, the distinction becomes a little bit more clearer.
Hmm.
You know, um,
Hmm.
good is very selfish, to be very honest.
Yeah.
When we
Because it's
speak,
about me, what I want.
yeah, it's about me or it's about my community, right? So
Yeah.
you may speak of your group, your herd, and you may defend your herd, but what is good for you might be bad for somebody else,
Hmm.
right? What works for you may not works against somebody else. And so when you think about it, good is not really the standard.
Yeah. And good is why things like apartheid prevailed. Good is why what you call it, slavery. Good is why,
A lot of
all of these
things.
things, because one group of people think that this is good for my
For a
community.
reason. Yeah.
Yeah, this is good for my community. It's why things. But then when you talk about what's right,
That's a
it's
higher
a it's
level.
a it's a standard that doesn't change with time or space, or it's a standard.
Yeah. And it's a
You know.
higher level. It takes everyone and it takes everything that's a part of the ecosystem into consideration. It's a
Yeah.
very, very higher level of thinking. And but it's still hard for us because we are naturally selfish as people. And so even in us trying to determine what is right, it is easier to just say, what did God say? What's
Yeah.
God's guideline here? What's God's word? That is
Mm-hmm.
what is right. Because you
Yeah.
fall into the trap of good crossing over right and not being able to distinguish it because you're
Yeah.
biased
Yeah.
naturally.
Yeah. You're naturally biased. Yeah. 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 And so much wrong in the world is perpetuated because one group thinks that this is good for them, you know. So yeah.
Yep, yep.
Yeah. 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 Lots to chew on there. So I see here you have right standing versus good standing. What is that?
So it's the same thing. It's the position that you take. It's the posture that you take. So a decision is before you, Jan, and you have to make a call in a scenario. Right standing leans to the side of what is right, which is a righteous response, right? Good standing leans to just making a decision that is good. And based on the distinction that we just made, a good standing is based on a good assessment, but a good assessment has its weaknesses, right? So that alerts us that you can be in good standing, but not in right standing.
Yeah.
Why is that necessary to distinguish? Why is that important to distinguish? Because right standing is God's standard. That's what righteousness is. Righteousness is not being perfect, right? Or doing what is perfect. Righteousness is being in right standing with God, right? And that is important to all of us because when we say that me and God good, you're basically saying that you're in right standing with Him. I'm at
Mm-hmm.
peace within my soul. It means you're in right standing with Him. And
Right.
so, right standing means that your posture, your decisions, even at this moment right now, are siding towards right and not necessary and not good. No, the
Yeah.
thing is, once you do what is right, then the good will also happen, but it's not the
Yeah.
good of the personalized good. It's the
Mm-hmm.
good of all,
All of us, the good of all.
the
Yeah.
greater good, we call it.
Yeah.
The
But
greater.
I mean, just in terms of um, as we live our lives, because one of the things that we want to be able to lead people with these conversations is practical tools of how to take this and have it affect your everyday life. It's in when it's how you treat people. I mean, that one statement, or what did God say, or what would Jesus do? Those things are become kind of like a filter through which you make decisions, or you choose to treat people well, or to it becomes your standard.
Yeah,
And the more you use it, is the more it becomes
natural,
you.
automatic. Yeah,
It
yeah.
becomes automatic. you know so whether it is you need to make a decision about an employee, or whether it is you need to make a decision about going to work late or not going to work, or calling work, or whether it's even making a decision around um,
Responding to your husband,
responding to your
responding to your
husband.
wife.
Yeah. Yeah. All of these things. But the more you filter things through what's right, the chances of you making mistakes or blunders, it won't go away,
It will
but
reduce.
it reduces significantly, you know.
So we say we always try to be practical. People doing right doesn't always feel good. Let me just say that from now.
Oh, girl, girl,
Especially at the start, because no,
yes.
to do right, you're literally going against what feels good.
And you're
And
going counterculture.
you're going counterculture, you're going to look like you're weak, right? You're going to look like you're not very sensible. And
Mm-hmm.
even within you, because you're going to make a decision that is right, you're even going to criticize yourself and say you're an idiot, kind
Yeah.
of a thing. So just bear that in mind, that the right doesn't feel good, especially when it is
Initially,
you're,
initially.
yeah. That's what I'm saying now. So especially when it is something that you're practicing,
Mm-hmm.
it becomes good feeling and it becomes a part of you the more that you do it and the more that you see the fruit of it, right? Because you're going to do something because there's a prize. You're going to do something because there's a benefit to doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So when we do what is good, we basically are only gratifying ourselves and oftentimes injuring the environment, injuring people, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes even injuring ourselves,
Yes,
right? And that's the
absolutely.
danger. That's the trick of doing what is good in the world's standard.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you do what is right, it will always be for the benefits of those who are involved.
Yeah,
Always.
yeah, yeah. And you mentioned the environment, just a simple thing as throwing trash out through your car window. It's a simple thing. It feels good because your car clean and you don't have no garbage in your car.
But you just
Yeah,
transferred it. That's what you did.
yeah.
You transferred it.
You transferred it. And the effect of that decision is felt years down the road, probably, you know. But it felt good in the moment to clean up your car,
Yeah, and you
you
look
know.
good and you say, "Whoo, my car is clean." But God forbid that you have to now walk on the road later for some reason. And
Hmm.
then you're gonna look around and wonder why the country's so nasty. That's because people felt that it was good to transfer their trash away from them. And it
Hmm.
builds up, and all of us become affected because we are interconnected and
Yeah.
interrelated.
Yeah, just like the man who choose, like the taxi man. Let me go for them straight. The taxi man who chooses to bad drive somebody and say, "Well, this taxi man good him reach, let me reach from a place to where going fast," and that was so good. But no, he probably left an accident behind him somewhere because he was bad driving somebody. And what we have is lawlessness, and so we see these decisions, this distinction between what is good, what we think is good, versus what is right. It spills right over into society, and that's what gives us the disorder in society. It's what gives us broken relationships. It's what gives us all sorts of ills. To be
Yeah.
very, it's what gives us sickness in our body when we choose to do things that feel good, but is not good for our bodies.
Yeah. It's not the right thing
Um,
for our body.
yeah,
Yeah.
the spillover is huge. It's huge.
You just said something and I have to kind of go back to that point. Um, repercussions of, yes, our good actions. And all of
Yeah,
us have different versions of good. So just
yeah,
imagine everybody doing their good, right?
yeah.
Well, that's chaos.
Absolute
That's
chaos.
chaos. You
Yeah.
know, but when you mentioned the taxi driver, I just want to kind of use that now as an example. In the moment when a taxi driver, let's say this is the first time he's gonna break the road code, he's assessing, I have a family to feed, right?
And that's good. I want to feed his
Have a,
family.
I may have a sick mother. I need to pay my rent. And why I'm going here is because I want to tell you about the trap of the good. And if we don't realize the trap, then it's harder for us to resist it
Hmm.
and say,
Hmm.
I'm going for right.
Right.
Good does not come across as unjustifiable. It is
Hmm.
justifiable.
Yeah.
It feels like it's the right thing to do. because there are needs, there are risks, there are situations that are even life and death that you are facing in the moment. And you're saying, but this must be what I must do. And so you are convinced and motivated to take a response that is good. But guess what happens? That perspective is so limited because it's only giving you a myopic view, and it's not even telling you what the long run effect is going to be. It's
Yeah.
not telling you how you impact the other person. Even the same family members that you are fighting for, it doesn't give you the fine print when you're thinking at that moment about what is the good thing to do or how I should respond. And can I tell you the other part of it? The more you do something that is wrong or bad, good versus bad, right? The more you do something that is bad, is the more you become acclimatized and
Yeah.
the habit creates. So the principle
And desensitized, completely desensitized.
eventually completely desensitized, totally
Yeah.
now under a deception, and you are not even aware of what you're doing, not even able to think beyond those justifications. You're literally locked now in a trap and a short term view of life, and you're missing the
Yeah.
dangers of it. That's the
Yeah.
trap of it.
That's the trap. And if somebody even calls it out, you're like, what? Man, that's
Because you're
foolishness.
just you're justified in your hearts. That is
Yes,
right.
you're
Yeah.
completely justified in your heart and you're completely deceived
Yeah.
because you've done this and you've justified it. And so it's a good thing. It's a good thing, you know. Um, it's so many things in life now, whether it is in your home life, it's or at work, or just in community. So many things that we've justified and we've called them good, and they've now become a part of us. And so the question is, I mean, when we look at our situation and the level of disorder, I mean, think about the new road traffic act and how many people are calling out and saying it's horrible and all of these kind of things. And I'm thinking to myself, that's the law.
Mhm.
If it's the law, then it's the law. You know what I'm saying? And so, and what's so funny, we go to other countries and we follow their laws. Why can't we do what's right at home? We go to other countries and we do what's right, but we can't do it here.
But you know why? It's a similar principle where everybody I do it, the government corrupt, right? Jamaica falling apart, therefore every man for himself. And you've reasoned this out and you've accepted this suggestion, and now you live your life selfishly, harmfully,
Hmm.
but with a justification that it may be the right thing to do. And you
Yeah.
don't realize that you are destroying not just yourself, but the very nation that you live
And if you have children, then it means that
in. The
down the
next
line, you've destroyed the environment that they're going to live in,
Yeah.
you
You make
know?
things harder for them. You make the debt higher. You make the burden that the next generation has to assume because it doesn't go away because we die and get old. It's
Hmm.
transferred to the next generation. The
Yeah.
state of every nation is transferred.
Yeah.
And so we are burdening the very children you are trying to beat the system to support in a Jan. This is the trick again. The
Yeah.
very children you are trying to support here and now by making a selfish decision are the very children that are going to suffer. Because after you've done your good and you go in the grave, the children now have to still inherit all the disaster and destruction from the
Yep.
previous generation.
Yep.
What a trap.
Yeah. It's
So,
a mega trap. And so here's where um we're talking about responsibility. Here's where personal responsibility. You know what happened? I don't care what anybody else is doing. Our personal responsibility says, I don't care what anybody else is doing out there. I am taking responsibility for this, for doing what's right here, for
Right
not
now.
throwing my trash out, out through just on the street, for obeying the road code. I'm taking personal responsibility. Can you imagine what it would look like if everybody took personal responsibility? Then we
Yeah.
don't have to watch each other, you know. We don't even have to point finger and say the government this or the government that or who this or who that. If every single person took personal responsibility to do what's right,
Our nation, our country will be different.
we're completely different.
Yeah.
You
Life will
know, we spend all of this time talking about who did this or who did
blame.
that or yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We keep pointing fingers. Just it stops. The buck stops with me. I must take personal responsibility. And I'm by no means saying that I'm perfect and I've got it right. But every day, as long as I'm aware, and that whole awareness thing is so huge. So now we have to now ask the question, is this decision good or is it right? What's the basis of this decision?
Right.
You know?
If you probably think of your life as a container, you have a specific time period allotted to you to live. Every decision you make is either going to add to your life becoming more positive or more negative
Subtract. Mhm.
or subtracting. And if
Mhm.
we view every decision that we have to take in from that perspective, then we
Mhm.
recognize that everyone counts. It doesn't
Every
matter how small it seems, it doesn't matter how trivial we think it is in the moment. Every decision counts. Every time you make a decision, you're either adding something that is truly good to your state, your circumstance, your environment, or you're subtracting from it, right? So if we look at it that way, that every decision counts, every decision I make matters, then we recognize that personal responsibility is so important. But the other
Mhm.
thing too is we're talking about when we make decisions that are good, the implication and the impact it has. Can you imagine when we make decisions that are right? It's the same thing, you know. We have
Yes.
a decision.
Yeah.
The reverse happens, and in fact, the reverse when we choose right, we have the backing of heaven,
Yeah.
and so the effect is even going to be greater than when we do something that is selfish.
The multiplier effect is
The
great.
multiplier effect.
It's great. It's great when we choose to do what's right. Yeah.
So we're fine, right, John?
Well, there's only one place, really. There is only one place, you know. Um, the Bible is where God lays out all his principles, all his truths, all the things. My favorite verse has now become his divine power has given us everything that we need for life and godliness. So everything that we need to make right decisions, we have it. Every
Oh,
single thing. But you know, I keep going back to this whole thing of awareness, right? So if you are locked into this trap of this good trap where you're, she's a good person. She's a good person, a really good person, right? But you're locked into this trap of being good and you're no longer aware of right and wrong because you're good. You're a good person, you know? Um before we even go there, so the question is how do we, as Jan says, how do we rewire or activate the right? How do we find how do we know start to go into to figure out what is right? The first thing is that we have to become aware that hold on
that you
here.
need to find right.
Yeah, like maybe this is not so, maybe this is good but not right. And it's not a conversation that we have on a daily basis, really. So it's conversations like this that's going to trigger somebody to say,
Is this the right thing to do?
is this the right thing to do? I mean, when one of the things that I do is I work with organizations on their values, their mission, vision, values. And I always emphasize this whole thing of your values. Your values are like so important because your values are the basis by which you make decisions, right?
Right. Amen.
And
Yeah.
by which you run this company, right? And if you don't clarify those values and ensure that everybody is on the same page, then
Anything goes.
anything goes.
Yeah.
Anything goes. It's like before you even come up with financials or anything, you see this, and studies have shown that companies that have focused on these things are companies that have done well in the long run, who have done well, who are sustainable. They build sustainable companies because it's built around certain values. And so you have to, as a person, be very clear about what your values are and what those values are based on.
Yeah.
Are they based on good or right?
So set
You
new
know?
values. So one of the action steps would be even asking yourself, what are my values? If you don't know what your values are, then you need to sit down with yourself and have that conversation, right? We always say include the chairman before you're making the
Yeah,
decisions. So if you are saved, connect with God when you're having that conversation, so He can guide you. What are my values? Set those values for your life, right? The next thing is you may need to learn them, learn about
yeah,
them. You
yeah,
can't do what you don't know. So God has given us everything we need for life and godliness. He has given it to us in a state that we now need to sow in and
and
invest
unlock.
in. Unlock and invest. So that
Yeah,
tells you that you have to do some work in order to activate, in order to take advantage of what you already have, in order to become who you already are. You have to put in the effort. And most times, the first effort that you have to put in, apart from clarifying your values, is gaining knowledge.
knowledge.
You have to gain knowledge because you can't do something different if you don't know what it is to do, right?
Yeah,
And so you have to know, get the knowledge to say what is right. So we know who the source of right is: God. How do you get knowledge on God? Read your
read,
Bible.
read the
Be
Bible.
a part of a community that is, gospel based and Bible based. Spend some time, have a connection with God yourself. So yes, you need the help from us, but God is also a relational God, and He wants to have that connection with us. Have a conversation. Tell Him, say you want to talk to Him, you want to learn Him. These are some of the things that you can do, but you have to pursue knowledge. Just like how
Yeah,
we pursue our education when we want to get up climb the ladder, we want to get promotion. We know what to prioritize. We know
we
what
do.
to
We
prioritize.
do.
So
We
now we
do.
need to change our priorities to say, listen, even if it's for the next generation, even if it's for what is left of Jamaica as I know, and
Hmm.
also for what is left of my own life and my own
Yeah,
time on earth,
yeah,
I
yeah,
have to change how I do things because we have to play our part to heal our nation. And it
yeah.
starts today.
It starts with me.
And it starts with you.
Yeah, absolutely. It starts with everybody taking responsibility for their decisions. We've lived in this utopia for too long where we blame everybody for everything except ourselves. We don't take responsibility.
And that's
And
not
so,
fixing it. So we need another
yeah,
game plan than
yeah,
blame.
if you keep doing the same thing and expecting a different result, you know what they say about you. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I said,
um,
Jan, ask a question here. That's a really hard question. What are the shared values of the nation? Jan, that's a big question. You know,
I mean, it is, that's it's not so big, I think. one of the beauties about Jamaica's pledge and anthem, it's founded on godly values.
You remember, I don't know for you, but I remember in devotions, we would say one of them, either say the pledge or sing the anthem or something. So we were aware. I don't know that it's done in school anymore.
I think they should do it. I think they do it still. I don't think they um
I don't know that they do because I mean, even when my kids are grown almost now, um, maybe when they were smaller, but certainly not now, you know.
so listen to this, guys. I'm gonna read this quickly and jot down in the chat some of the values you hear standing out. Before God and all mankind, I pledge the love and loyalty of my heart, the wisdom and courage of my mind, the strength and vigor of my body, in the service of my fellow citizens. I promise to stand up for justice, brotherhood, and peace, to work diligently and creatively, to think generously and honestly, so that Jamaica may, under God, increase in beauty, fellowship, and prosperity, and play her part in advancing the welfare of the whole human race. I don't even need to touch the anthem because this is loaded with values for this nation. Loaded. Maybe that's why I've always loved the pledge.
Yeah, me too.
It is absolutely beautiful. And this is the value of our nation, defined a long time ago. But
Yeah,
we don't live like this.
yeah,
Loyalty, service, justice, generosity, fellowship. Thank you, Sophia. You know, this is beautiful. Peace. We have it here. We just
yeah,
need to be who we are.
yeah. We need to live these values, and we need to ensure that it's shared. Brotherhood. Yeah,
So
we
that, and
need.
it says it, it gives you the prize, it gives you the reward, it tells you when you do this you get this, right? Brotherhood, that's community. As Kim is pointing out that thing, but most of the time we're fighting against each other, we're competing, we're sabotaging each other, and so we're even going against our own values, and that's why our nation is falling apart.
Hmm.
But guess what if we start adhering
Yeah,
to our values? What if we start just doing the right thing and
yeah.
knowing that we have the backing of heaven? Then our nation can be healed in a shorter space of
Space
time.
of time. We just go back to, as Jamaica Mocha says, go back to the basics.
Go back to the basics.
Go back to the basics. Go back to what's right.
Yep.
Go back to what's right.
So Trisha, this is one of my favorite parts of it. Advancing the welfare of the whole
For the
human
whole
race.
human race.
So Jamaica, though we so bossy in ourselves, we recognize that we have a part to play in the entire human race. And we do that. Everywhere we go, we influence. We're not like, well,
Yes, it's
we set
true.
the pace.
Yeah, everywhere you go, you either find Jamaicans or Jamaicans are known for something.
And we know it too.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
all we
yeah,
need
yeah,
to do now is to make
yeah.
sure that we do the values rather than doing the opposite. We're still influencing. We're still affecting people everywhere we go. But now we want to affect them rightly.
Yeah, yeah. And we really need to start a movement, Andrew. We really need to start a movement of just going back to the basics.
Yeah, look at Jamaica move on. Yep, we have, yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can be changed by all that is right. Yeah. And
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
not far from us at all.
It isn't far. Actually, it isn't far. And there are enough of us, right? There are enough of us who know what this, what who have experienced this. it is always so funny that when you think about, it's the people that who are actually in the minority who are loudest, who seem to be the ones who seem to be the ones who lead. But it's we enough of us know it. Jan, you're right.
So
We
go
go
on
through
now.
the
So
steps
talk.
of,
Go
yes,
back on your point that you're just making. A lot of us who are quiet, we
yeah.
take the position of quiet because we think it's the good thing to
Oh,
do.
girl.
That's what it is. We are protecting ourselves. We don't want to be canceled by the cancel culture people. We don't want to offend people, right? And by choosing not to say, by choosing not to do what is right, by choosing to call out the things that are bad for our nation and to stay quiet, then
Hmm.
the few are the one who gets heard.
Yeah, and it's a
But the
few who are
few
doing the
determine
good things.
for the nation.
Yeah, yeah,
We
yeah.
are responsible for that. When we choose to be quiet, we allow our voice to be transferred to who is bold enough to speak.
Hmm. Yeah,
And we're doing
absolutely,
that. Us, the
absolutely.
quiet people, quiet and safe people. We're
Yeah,
doing
man, we're quiet and we're safe, and you're on your veranda, and nowadays you're not even going on the veranda. You're in your living room, and you're talking. Say, boy, these people are so
with the security
horrible.
system. For those who are able to afford it, it works. But let me tell you something, we can't hide because when crime decides to find you, it will find you. So it doesn't work. After a while, it backfires. The
Yeah,
only thing that works is doing the right thing now, playing
yeah,
our part right now to heal this nation, taking the personal responsibility. And we don't have to hit the newspapers. We don't have to blast up the government. We just need to start in our neck of the woods. What we
yeah.
do on a day to day basis at work, what we're doing with our family members, what we're doing to our children. Just that. Just shine your light there.
Hmm.
Shine your
Hmm.
right there.
But Jamaica Mocha says that staying on the sidelines because it don't affect us, but it does, because you
It
know what
does.
happened. Let me tell you something. You have to small up yourself. You have to know small of yourself, because they are now big and broad. We think about going on the road, right? And you're now subject to all of this bad driving around you. What you do, you just pull
Yeah.
over to the corner, you just small up yourself. And it's the same thing, we small up ourselves and lock up in the house. We small up ourselves and we don't go out anymore. We don't go out in the community anymore because it's not safe. We just small up ourselves.
So we are being affected. Life in its fullness is just being robbed from us.
Oh Lord. Jan, you come for us tonight.
What she say no?
She said, "Who are we then? Are we the good or the right people? We know right, but we're but not doing. Is it we know
Good.
right, but we're not doing right, and but we're doing good? The good thing is to keep safe."
Yeah. I mean, guess what? Who are we? That's what I want you to determine today. And I want everybody who is on the call, not the call, yeah, on the link, on the live, and those who will be hearing it after to choose that I'm going to be the right.
Yeah, I'm gonna
And
be
that
the right.
means the question is, what is the right thing to do? Every crossroad that you reach, every moment of decision making, before you act, before you respond, right? You ask yourself the question, what is the right thing to do?
But remember that you have to seek knowledge, right, to know what's right.
Yeah.
So, talking about this and that, guys, I have something that I'm so excited about. So, some time ago, I told you guys that our girl Andrea wrote this other book. She's a big time author.
Oh,
You
wow.
know, yes, she's a big time author. And so she's written this other book that I'm reading now. And one of these evenings, I'm going to share with you my take on the book. I'm trying to find the link now to drop it in the chat. Yes.
Let me see if I
Um,
let me see if I can help you with that.
I found it.
Okay, awesome.
Right. So, guys, Pastor Andrew here wrote another book. It's called, this schedule, Wake, The Journey of One Who Answered His Call.
Let me see if I can see mine.
Yes, better. Yours look better than mine. Right.
Yes, Jan.
um, yes, Jan. Um, so this book talks about Andrea's journey to hearing God's call and answering it, and about all the things that he illuminated, and he actually differentiated what was good versus what was right in her life. And I feel like she chatting my business still, but and I know that plenty of you are going to think that when you read the book, but I'm encouraging you. It's a really good read. It's not heavy reading, but it's really interesting, and it causes you to stop and think. Um, so I'm encouraging you. It's on Amazon, and you have any more copies, Andrea?
By next week I should have more copies.
Oh yes, please, people, because I got my autographed copy. Yeah,
Are you
because we
making
know the author like that. So you can always reach out to her um, to get a signed copy, or you can just order it online. But guys, on a serious note, though, go out and support her. It's a really great read, and so now that we have you all on faith and works,
please share?
I'm asking if you have not yet subscribe and like the video and share it with your friends who you think would be interested in this conversation. I don't think we've exhausted all of this good versus right conversation. And I'm encouraging you to take it into your circles, take it to your friends, and have this conversation about, what
Yeah.
is good versus right, and how do we take personal responsibility, because that is how we're going to know, start to spread the word, start to infect other people, because it's one thing to sit and chat, but then not to act, which is one of the reasons why we named this channel Faith and Works, because without faith it's impossible to please God, and faith without works is dead. So it's one thing to talk, but we have to now start to walk the talk, right?
Yes.
Walk the talk. We have to walk the talk. So I'm encouraging you to take the topic and come back next week and tell us about the interesting conversations you've had. We are definitely interested. And so we thank you for coming along with us this evening. And we thank you for your participation. And remember to go and get this book. It's on Amazon. Just
Thank
click
you,
the link,
Jan.
and we'll see you next time. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
guys. Have a great rest of the week.
Yes, have a wonderful, productive week.
Hooray. Jan.
All right,
You're
great.
welcome, Jamaica Mocha. Oh, this is
Yeah.
Andrew McGibbon, and that's Jenny's Jacobs Jones. Who's going to introduce
Okay. We're
ourselves?
no good at introducing ourselves,
Oh
right?
my gosh.
I'm Janice Dakers Jones, and I'm the founder of Biz Head Start. And with me is Andrea McGibbon, author, pastor. She wear plenty hat, coach. Um, yeah, and an awesome friend. So
Bless
bless
you.
up, Stephen. Thanks for stopping by. All right, bye guys.
Bye, guys. Bye, SJ. Bye, Trish. Night, night. Bye, Jamaica Mocha.